Can TrueCourse simulations reduce the cost of pilot training? At TrueCourse Simulations, we create simulations that better prepare students for their flight lessons, reduce flight time, and increase the enjoyment of flight training. By increasing the pre-flight interactivity on the ground, we can greatly increase the learning experience in the airplane and reduce the cost significantly. My name is Ray Bedard, and I flew for 20 years in the Canadian Air Force, and I was a faculty member at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University for 13 years. I was always trying new teaching methods and technologies and won numerous awards. My approach is that it's not about the teaching, it's about the learning. So in my experience, student pilots learn best by using an interactive, hands-on approach. So I started incorporating Microsoft Flight Simulator scenarios to replace some of the lectures. My students loved the simulations. They were very engaged in their learning, and I found that through active simulation, they had a better understanding of the material practically and conceptually, and it was fun. Until recently, the technology could not support active learning for pilot training. So we created the method and the technology to bring active learning to a whole new level. I will explain how we went about it. First, let me provide some background. As an academic advisor, I found that flight students left aviation for two main reasons. They ran out of money, and flight training was not a whole lot of fun. So in January 2013, I surveyed some of my advisees, and they mentioned the three main challenges they encountered during their studies at ERAU. The main one was that flight training was too expensive. The second challenge was that the ground school was not very dynamic, and that it was only designed to pass the FAA written knowledge test. And the third one was that the flight instructors were frustrated with the students because they were not prepared for flight activities, and in turn, the students were frustrated because there was no adequate material to prepare. Now that we had a definition of the problems, we kept talking and started with the assumption that an airplane is a difficult learning environment. It's a noisy, uncomfortable, and stressful, and very expensive place to learn. We kept working towards a solution. To reduce the cost, let's reduce the time in the aircraft. To reduce the time in the aircraft, let's improve the quality of that time in the aircraft. To improve the quality of the aircraft time, let's work on better preparing the students on the ground. The answer was simulation. So we set out to develop a structured learning environment that was designed to fill the gap between the ground school and flight activities. We started with the private pilot course because that was where we lost most of the students. By dividing this enormous amount of material into 60 small chunks, it is much easier for the student to absorb, retain, and apply the learning objectives. It was important to design a system with multisensory interactions because they better engage the student's senses and enhance the learning, retention, and application of the material. And they would also have fun learning. We designed the learning activities with the intention of involving as many senses as possible while keeping it simple. Reading is mostly visual, while watching a movie is both visual and auditory, and the simulation also involves the kinesthetic channels. It took us 2 years to create a system of interactive structured learning activities to fill the gap between the ground school and the flight activities. The TCS learning system is a 3-step process. Read it, watch it, do it. Here's how it works. Step 1 is read it. I hired certified flight instructors to write pre-flight briefings that describe each maneuver or activity with some background knowledge from the ground school sprinkled in. It makes for a quick read that engages the visual channel. If nothing else, a student could impress his or her flight instructor by reading the briefing a few minutes before the meeting time and be ready for the activity. For the second step, watch it, we created short videos that describe, explain, and show the maneuver performed on the computer. Now the student sees the same material in a different format and also hears it from the instructor. The visual and auditory channels are involved, reinforcing the learning. The third step is do it. This is the fun part. Each briefing and video lead to a simulation that is flown on the student's desktop computer, anytime, anywhere, using Lockheed Martin's Prepared. The student performs the maneuver with a virtual flight instructor, guiding him through the process. The average flight lesson is 10 minutes long and is the most interactive way to learn as all the learning channels are now involved. The student is allowed to fail and is encouraged to practice again and again until mastery of the procedure is attained. The student acquires a better retention of the materials because he proceeds at his own pace, reviews it as many times as needed, anytime, anywhere. So we accomplished what we originally set out to do. We created some of the technology to make this happen, and the website is ready. To facilitate the students' learning even more, we match the ERAU syllabus to the TCS lessons. That way the students know what TCS lessons to review before each unit. We also implemented the Grassblade Learning Record Store, which records the learners' activities in the site. It provides data for the research we will be conducting this semester. During the fall semester, we beta tested the system with 4 students and 1 flight instructor. This semester, we're conducting research with an additional 8 students. The research will focus on comparing the students' activities with the TCS learning system to their progress in their flight activities. We created a structured environment that facilitates student learning. The premise is that the more time they spend in the TCS learning system, the better prepared they will be. It reduces the time spent in the airplane and therefore reduces the cost to the students. It will reduce the number of unsatisfactory activities and therefore failures. Student success in turn increases the pass rate for the flight school and increases retention. I have a testimonial from a flight instructor who is validating the course. However, I want you to listen to Emily Ross, who sums it up.
I've only been using it for about a month now, and I've already seen some great progress in my own personal flying. How many flights did I do? I did like 11 flights just trying to pass those stupid steep turns. I was not really getting the hang of it, not getting the sight picture, and kind of just dropping out of PTS standards. So I started practicing pretty much every single day on the True Course sims. Practice, steep turns several hours at a time. And after a point, a couple flights ago, I believe, my flight instructor made a comment that that was the best steep turn I've ever done. Finally, I passed it after lots of practice on the True Course sims. So that was just a fantastic moment. It's actually a whole multitude of things. I like reading the briefing before I know what I'm getting into. I can sort of mentally prepare myself for the task at hand, and I really like the tactile sensation you get from that. You get to actually, as I said earlier, play around with the controls like you're actually flying. And then you get to see what the cockpit looks like on the screen. You can adjust the viewpoint how you need it, so on and so forth. But it works really great, but a combination of the two of those, probably my favorite thing about the program. I will continue to work on landings, crosswind landings, crosswind takeoffs. So I hear a lot of people spend so much time on landings, they just have to repeat and repeat and repeat, like I did with the steep turns. So fingers crossed, I'll be able to get on a little bit quicker.
Thank you.